We've become familiar with the phrase driving while black. That's the added attention, suspicion, and sometimes violence or worse that black drivers experience when stopped by law enforcement. There's another phenomenon that you might not know about: driving while autistic. People with autism report problems with police because the officers don't understand their specific needs. A new blue envelope in a glove compartment could help. We explain on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Morja Wealth Management, serving the North Country for 3 generations. MorjaWM.com. Securities offered through Hightower Securities, LLC, member FINRA, SIPC. Hightower is an SEC-registered investment advisor. And Kinney Drugs, now offering specialized home medical equipment and supplies. Learn more at KinneyHomeCare.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Tuesday, February 25th. First up, Governor Kathy Hochul had stern words for corrections officers in the 9th day of their strike today.
Let me be clear. The illegal actions being taken by a number of individuals is putting the entire state at risk. We need them back to work. This must end immediately.
State officials say 9 of 10 COs are participating in the walkout, which is not authorized by the COs union and against state law. State troopers are serving court orders to striking officers at their homes or by mail or email. The state corrections department says officers who fail to show up for their shifts will lose their pay and health insurance while on strike. COs say conditions inside state prisons have become too dangerous, and officers are being forced to work double or triple shifts due to a staffing shortage. Hochul said mediation yesterday and today is trying to work out those issues.
I understand there's a lot of frustration about the long hours. I have long stood with the corrections officers of this state. But we have a situation right now which is absolutely untenable, especially the fact that there were prisons left unguarded. There were people from other unions, people who work in healthcare, and the commissary, who were left unprotected by these actions.
Hochul said 6,500 National Guard troops are now staffing state prisons. She said she's considering alternative holding facilities, including transferring inmates out of state. Close to half of the Adirondack Park Agency's staff say their management is fostering a toxic workplace. The Adirondack Explorer reports the union that represents APA staff sent a letter alleging abuse from the agency's executive director, Barbara Rice, and her management team. 20 of the APA's 47 non-executive team employees endorsed the letter anonymously because of fears of retaliation. The letter alleges that the toxic work environment has led to the resignations of employees with institutional knowledge, which could affect the agency's effectiveness in future. The letter states the, quote, efforts to raise these concerns internally have been met with resistance, retaliation, bullying, and isolation, or been ignored altogether. An APA spokesperson said the agency has a zero-tolerance bullying policy. And in a statement to the Explorer, APA Board Chair John Ernst said leadership is committed to promoting a safe and supportive workplace. The union is asking for an independent review of the agency's workplace culture and leadership. Tensions between Governor Kathy Hochul and Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado have reached a boiling point. Jung-Yoon Han from the New York Public News Network reports.
Hochul's office says Delgado has neglected his responsibilities and are beginning to shift those duties elsewhere. That came after Delgado announced this week that he would not run with Hochul for re-election and hasn't closed the door on running against her either. When asked on Tuesday if Delgado should resign, Hochul did little to shut down such speculation.
It is clear to me that he's not happy being in the role of lieutenant governor, but I wish him well in whatever he chooses to do.
The recent statements from both Delgado and Hochul are the clearest indication yet that their relationship has soured after a series of clashes. Delgado called for President Biden to drop out of the 2024 presidential race when Hochul backed him. Then in February, Delgado said New York City Mayor Eric Adams should resign before Hochul decided publicly that she wouldn't use her executive powers to remove Adams over corruption charges. In Albany, I'm Jung-Yoon Han for the New York Public News Network.
NCPR's former and longtime Capitol Bureau chief is being honored by a national media organization. Karen DeWitt has been selected by the Radio Television Digital News Association, or RTDNA, as one of its First Amendment Award recipients. The awards honor those who, quote, exemplify responsible journalism and practice their constitutionally guaranteed duty to seek and report the truth. DeWitt retired last June after more than 3 decades in public radio. Her career spans 6 governors and countless budget battles and scandals. She's now a regular columnist for the Albany Times-Union. DeWitt is also this year's recipient of the RTDNA Foundation's Lifetime Achievement Award. The foundation says state political reporting is critically important to American democracy and, quote, few in the country did it better than Karen DeWitt. That is so awesome, so deserved. Congrats, Karen. A new program in the North Country aims to help people on the autism spectrum better navigate interactions with law enforcement. Kara Chapman has more.
Let's be honest, getting pulled over can be stressful for anyone. Michelle Quinnell-Gale with the ARC Jefferson St. Lawrence says for some folks on the autism spectrum, it can be extremely overwhelming.
And if that person doesn't communicate in a traditional way, in that moment, it can be hard to organize thoughts to be able to portray what you're feeling to the law enforcement officer.
And she says that can lead to misunderstandings between the driver and police.
Sometimes someone could appear as though they're being obstinate when they're really searching for their words and trying to find the appropriate way to convey their message.
A new tool aims to make those interactions between drivers on the spectrum and law enforcement easier. It's called the Blue Envelope Program. The way it works is drivers keep their license, registration, and insurance card in special blue envelopes. If they're pulled over, they can hand the envelope to the police officer. Jefferson County Sheriff Peter Barnett says it signals the driver is on the autism spectrum.
It helps both the operator and the officer on that stop better communicate with each other to come to a very good result.
The front of the blue envelope has instructions for the driver about how to navigate traffic stops. Things like keep your hands on the wheel, be prepared for a flashlight and loud radio, and tell the officer you have a blue envelope. On the other side, in big letters, are the words, "Attention police officer. This driver is on the autism spectrum." It says the driver may fidget or show signs of high anxiety and encourages the officer to be patient. According to the Organization for Autism Research, there have been multiple negative encounters between people with autism and law enforcement in recent years. They've resulted in unnecessary use of force, trauma, and even death. Barnett says the goal of the Blue Envelope program is to prevent, quote, unfortunate incidents that could arise from misunderstandings between police and drivers on the spectrum. He says that hasn't happened in his county, but even one instance is one too many.
This gives everybody a nice, even playing field to communicate with each other, to resolve that traffic stop and get people moving on their way again, with confidence and with no fear.
Rollout of the Blue Envelope program in Jefferson County is part of a broader implementation statewide. The New York State Sheriff's Association handed out hundreds of envelopes to sheriffs who attended its winter conference last month. Barnett says so far, about 15 to 20 envelopes have gone out from his office and the ARC Jefferson St. Lawrence. Quinnell-Gale says people are excited about it.
They look at it to say, this gives me freedom to be truly integrated in my community and know that I have a great way to tell my story and to ensure that I can be comfortable presenting myself in the way that I am and not having to worry about any negative interactions.
Quinnell-Gale says that ability for people on the spectrum to integrate into their communities is important. She says anyone who doesn't feel safe or understood is less likely to engage.
Navigating society can be a challenge. So tools like this really give us all freedom to just live our lives in the way we like.
If you're interested in picking up a blue envelope for yourself or a loved one, contact your local sheriff's office. Kara Chapman, North Country Public Radio.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. If you listen to Story of the Day on the radio at 5:48, but you miss it sometimes, try subscribing to the podcast. It's free, and you can listen whenever you want, even when you have no cell coverage driving through the Adirondacks. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or go to ncpr.org/podcasts. Music today by Lost in Beijing of Keene and Ben Sharon of Watertown. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.